Hey everybody, Cliff Yates. I've been following RFK Jr.'s congressional hearing, and it's pretty interesting. I've been following him for quite a while, and I've been reading about him for quite a while. And also, he was part of a round table with another lady called the Food Babe, and they brought up some interesting points about our food and how some of these food companies that were bought up years ago by the tobacco companies with the intent of getting us hooked on these foods. And a lot of them are producing foods for the U.S. that other countries don't allow in. So they actually change how they produce this food so that they can sell to these other countries, but yet they allow themselves to give to us, their customer, a product that is not up to par that other countries demand that it be. How can you do that to your customer? So it's kind of crazy, the unhealthy things that these companies and the foods that they're creating with all these chemicals that are unhealthy, like Fruit Loops with the colors that is not allowed in Canada, but they say they do it in America because the kids like the red color. But listen, I was taking some notes from the hearings the other day, and also let's look at some of the highlights as from the Federalist, who have quite an interesting article about the hearings, and it's been quite contentious. And if you look into it, you can see why that there's such an opposition to RFK Jr. getting in. And he made some great points yesterday when the hearings started in the morning. 6 highlights from RFK Jr.'s second Senate hearing for HHS, Health and Human Services Secretary. This is by Tristan Justice. Boy, was it contentious. It was just something. If you saw it, it was pretty amazing. President Donald Trump's nominee to run the Department of Health and Human Services testified for a second time on Capitol Hill on Thursday after appearing before the Senate Finance Committee Wednesday. The nation is ready for change and recognizes this is a unique inflection moment, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said in his opening statements to the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. Our country will sink beneath a sea of desperation and debt if we don't change course and ask the fundamental question, why are health care costs so high in the first place? How can we be the richest country in the world and the sickest, the most unhealthy? How can we have the most unhealthy citizens around the world? And we do. Make America healthy again? How about make America healthy and strong again? Kennedy, citing the CDC, emphasized chronic illness as the obvious answer, with over 90% of the healthcare spending going towards managing chronic disease. And RFK Jr. brought up the fact that when his uncle was president, John F. Kennedy, in the early 60s, the government spent zero on chronic disease, and now it spends over $4 million on chronic disease. I quote from RFK Jr., the president's pledge is not to make some Americans healthy again, but to make all Americans healthy again. Kennedy said, we will bring together all stakeholders in pursuit of this unifying goal. There's already a section in America, a section of citizens that already are off medications. They're my age, 68. Look at Kennedy. He's 72-ish. All right. There's already a segment in America, not big enough. We already exercise. We move a lot throughout the day. We use progressive resistance, weight training. We get plenty of sunlight. We get plenty of sleep. We hydrate. We play at something. We keep our minds busy. We are constantly learning, expanding our mind. We understand the connection between mind and body. But there's not enough of us. There's not that many of us. We need more because we need a strong, healthy America if we're going to survive as a country. I don't know if it could be any more important than this, and I think RFK Jr. is the guy that should be confirmed for this position. Kennedy highlights contributions to senators from pharmaceutical industry. This really caused chaos. This really caused trouble in Congress. Kennedy went on offense following 2 days of interrogation by raising the point that senators on the panel have raked in millions from the pharmaceutical industry while defending blind acceptance of medical interventions such as vaccines. The problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too, Kennedy said to Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Almost all the members of this panel, including yourself, Bernie, you're accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry and protecting their interests. Should they be receiving any money? No. Of course they shouldn't. Now, the Federalist, they looked into this. According to a Federalist analysis of industry donations compiled by Open Secrets, members of the Senate Health Committee, which questioned Kennedy Thursday, have received more than $5.6 million in contributions from Big Pharma. And that's between 2019 and 2024. Members of the Senate Finance Committee, which questioned the Health and Human Services nominee Wednesday, received about $7 million in the same time frame. 3 senators serve on both committees. I guess they're double dipping. Why not? Should members of Congress be receiving any money from pharmaceutical companies when they are overseeing medications and approving laws that directly affect these companies? I wonder how many of these Congress people, what kind of stock options they have in these companies. We would be crazy pissed if we found this out. Rand Paul lectures lawmakers on science. And he clashes with Congressman Cassidy. Republican Senator Rand Paul used his 5 minutes to deliver a lecture to colleagues and asked lawmakers to give the guy a break who says, I just want to follow the science, wherever it leads without presupposition. I think really what we have up here is presupposition, Paul said. We don't know what causes autism, so we should be more humble in what we say. Kennedy brought up the other day this crazy stats, and you can check it out. We can look it up. 77% of all of our young teens today could not qualify for the armed services. Is that crazy? 38% of teens are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. They're already obese. They're already fat and out of shape. What's that going to do to our military? I'm sure these other countries that want to see us go under from within are really happy about these things. Kennedy said, during my uncle's presidency, John F. Kennedy, a pediatrician would see in his 50-year career 1 to 2 cases of childhood diabetes. Now it's 1 out of every 3. Paul expressed Americans' frustration with the public health establishment in the aftermath of the coronavirus outbreak in 2020 when the nation was coerced into mandatory vaccination for lockdowns to be lifted. Well, I wasn't coerced. I didn't take the vaccine. I never had COVID. Let's have an honest debate about these things. If you say a 6-month-old must be mandated to get the COVID vaccine, the science is not there, Paul said. There's such a belief in submission. Submit to the government. Do what you're told. There's no discussion. There ought to be a debate. You're not going to let him have the debate because you're just going to criticize. This is why people distrust the government, and boy, do we ever. But you know what? They're being exposed for the corrupt people that they are. The Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, his admonishment of his colleagues came shortly after questioning by the committee's GOP chairman, Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who had just demanded Kennedy's pledge to reassure mothers that certain vaccines do not cause autism. Kennedy, who repeatedly professed his support for vaccines throughout both hearings, told lawmakers if presented with the appropriate safety data, he will absolutely do that. Murray, she went nuts in a hysterical rant at the end of her questions. Democrat Senator Patty Murray from Washington said just voting for Kennedy and, in turn, letting constituents know he is worth listening to could get people killed. He does not even need the levers of power to influence people, she said. All he needs is a megaphone. Yeah, God forbid we use free speech and let people say what this guy knows what he's talking about. In reality, recent polling does say that Americans overwhelmingly support the Make America Healthy Again movement, and they support RFK Jr.'s plan to reform the food industry, as the Federalist has reported. Come on, man. Let's make everybody healthy and strong again. It's not that complicated. Move a lot. Get plenty of sunlight. Walk. Get into a gym. Work out. Some yoga. Hydrate yourself. Get plenty of sunlight. Get proper sleep. And you're going to get into longevity into your later years. You're not just going to add years to your life. You're going to add life to your years. Hey, I'm all about that. If you like this content, please subscribe to the channel and share it with somebody who you think needs to hear it. I'm Cliff Yates, everybody. You know I love you. I'll see you in the next video.